Welcome back. Alright, I think it's time we talked the Three Stooges. So, for those who don't know, the Stooges are a comedy group from the 30s to the 60s, consisting of three bumbling buffoons getting into all kinds of mischief and making life miserable for almost everyone around them. From ruining construction buildings, to meddling in others' wedding affairs, to stopping gangsters, ghouls, and gals, the Stooges have been all over the place. I grew up watching the Three Stooges, and they are unquestionably one of my favorite comedy groups of all time, if not my favorite. And I think it's time I counted down my picks for the top 10 best Three Stooges shorts. Now, this was not an easy list to do, because not only are there hundreds of different shorts from these three morons, but they have several different iterations as well. So, for the sake of this list, I'm omitting any material from Curly Joe Dorita, because the Stooges were mostly doing feature-length films and TV at the time. I also decided to divide each era up so that I can cover each iteration of the Stooges at least once. I did so like this. On the list, you will see 1 short from Joe Besser, 4 shorts with Shemp Howard, and 5 shorts with Curly Howard. With that out of the way, it's time for a countdown. Let's begin. Number 10. A Merry Mix-Up. So, this will be the only one on this list of Joe Besser, and for good reason. While he could have his moments, he was a far cry from being as funny as Curly or Shemp, and Curly Joe is also a bit more comedic than he was. That, and he kinda came in the era where the Stooges were at their weakest, especially after losing Curly, then losing Shemp. That being said, Joe still had his moments, and I think it shines strongest in this short. In this short, the Stooges are 3 sets of identical triplets, consisting of Moe, Larry, and Joe, Louie, Max, and Jack, and Luke, Morris, and Jeff. They all lost track of each other after the war, but they all ended up living in the same apartment as the others without them even knowing. Moe, Larry, and Joe are bachelors, Louie, Max, and Jack are married, and Luke, Morris, and Jeff recently got engaged. Eventually, the spouses all begin mistaking the brothers' identities, and it spirals into chaos. This short has a lot of hilarious moments, and the effects for this short are really well done for the time. I don't know exactly what sort of trick they used to make this effect, but it looks great. The funniest part of this whole short, though, has to be the ending. A pissed off waiter goes after all the brothers, and not realizing any of them are triplets, begins to lose his mind whenever one of them runs off in one direction, only to appear in another. It's funny, it's chaotic, it's a whole lot of fun, but it is still a Joe Besser short, so that's why it makes it to the bottom of the list. Number 9. He Cooked His Goose. This one is a classic and also very unique, but I'll get into that in a minute. In this short, Larry is a pet shop owning philanderer who has his eyes on Shemp's fiancée, Millie, played by Angela Stevens. Millie, of course, wants nothing to do with him, and Shemp is getting tired of Larry's antics. However, Larry is also having an affair with a woman named Belle, played by Mary Ainsley. Belle is married to Moe, who is an exceptionally jealous man. However, Larry sees an opportunity to get his way, so he tries to trick Shemp and Moe into killing each other over the women they love, in hopes of having them both for himself. Now, I said it was unique earlier because this is one of the few Stooges shorts where the guys aren't related or really good friends. In fact, they're more or less strangers and enemies. It still works really well though, as it not only gives them more unique ways to play off each other, but also show their slapstick savvy on their own. I especially love the bit where the Christmas tree falls on Moe not once, but twice due to his clumsiness. Plus, the whole chase between him and Shemp's a classic, especially when Shemp is hiding in the fireplace.
Come down or I'll shoot! I got him! Oh.
Still, while this short is funny, it doesn't give them a lot to play off of each other, and there are funnier shorts to come. Even so, give this one a watch, as it's a great one involving Shemp. Number 8. I'll Never Hail Again. Now, we go to our first Curly short, and we are definitely starting out strong. In this short, the Stooges are leading the country of Moronica, with Moe as Dictator Moe Hailstone, Larry as the Minister of Propaganda, and Curly as Field Marshal Herring. A group now wishes to stop Hailstone and return rule of the land to its former king, King Herman VI and 7/8. His daughter Gilda, played again by Mary Ainsley, infiltrates the dictator's headquarters and plants an explosive 13 ball on his pool table, which will blow the Stooges to Kingdom Come. Other matters also ensue, including a meeting with leaders from nearby countries and a battle with a delicious piece of poultry. This segment is filled to the brim with funny moments. Already, it's hilarious poke at Hitler and the Nazi regime, as pretty much everything is a parody of it. Hell, there was a rumor that Hitler wanted the Stooges executed for this short. It's also unique because it's one of the few times the Stooges actually play villains instead of heroes. Now, while this isn't the first time the Stooges made fun of such a direct parody of the Nazis, the first was known as You Nasty Spy, this one I think did what that short did and perfected it. From Moe's crazy rambling when I assumed to be German gibberish, to the outright parody of the world leaders of the time. Plus, I love the fourth wall break Curly does here.
Yeah, man, I'm from the South. Now you look at that. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, man.
Yeah, nuts.
Yeah.
It's a great short and one I would recommend seeing. The only downside is, to really appreciate how great this short is to the fullest, you have to see You Nasty Spy first. And while You Nasty Spy is really good, it does take some points off of this one. Number 7. The Hot Scots. Who knew getting scared could also be funny? The Stooges did. That's why there are so many of them getting stuck in haunted houses. In this one though, it's a haunted castle. The Stooges are wannabe detectives who want to join Scotland Yard and potentially get the chance when they accidentally stumble upon a case from Glen Heather Castle. The Earl, played by Herbert Evans, wants the Stooges to guard his valuables, which have been slowly disappearing over the past few nights. The Stooges stay the night and run into all sorts of trouble, especially when a masked man begins scaring them and painting of a Middle Eastern man comes to life. Is it ghosts or something else going on? The short takes a little bit to get going, but when the madness begins, it goes all out. Not to say the beginning isn't funny, there are a lot of good laughs when the group are doing yard work. I especially get a laugh out of Larry cutting into the lawn and sweeping all his junk underneath it, a clever nod to sweeping stuff under the rug. However, the real comedy comes from when they get into the castle, disguised as Scotsmen. The scares are clever and funny, but one of my favorite parts comes from when they're talking to the Earl, introducing themselves as McShemp, McLarry, and McMo. Shemp starts spouting some gibberish, and the Earl asks this.
What part of Scotland are you from?
He's from southern Scotland, below the McMason-McDixon line. Mickey out. That's what it meant.
It's a good short, but not one of the strongest when it comes to their spookier episodes. Don't worry, we'll get to that later. Number 6. Heavenly Days. This one is another unique one. It's got a far more fascinating story and a somewhat interesting twist at the end. In this short, Shemp has recently been deceased and his Uncle Mortimer, played by Moe, won't allow him into heaven due to the trouble he, Moe, Larry caused on Earth. However, if Shemp is able to reform Moe and Larry, Mortimer will allow Shemp entry into heaven and save him from a grave fate. But nobody is able to see Shemp, which Shemp takes to his full advantage. So basically, the whole short consists of Shemp messing with Larry and Moe, hoping to scare them away from their latest scheme. It's pretty funny the kind of antics Shemp pulls on the other two. Plus, the third Stooge is usually the most common butt of the jokes, so it's nice to see the third get a bit of payback, even though of course none of the shorts are connected. Also, the whole story is not only unique for the Stooges, but also unique as a story in general. And I gotta give credit to Sam McDaniel, who plays Moe and Larry's butler. His reaction to Shemp terrorizing him are an absolute riot.
Let's get going and answer the door.
I'm going, but my heart ain't in it.
I won't give away the ending, so if you want to see a more unique story for the Stooges, this is the one for you. Number 5. Dizzy Pilots. Oh boy. Now we're getting into some good stuff. In this short, the Stooges are the Wrong brothers, who want to build a new and improved airplane to not only gain fame and fortune, but also to escape being drafted into the army. As they put the finishing touches on their plane, the Buzzard, they get into all sorts of antics, even more when they finally get into the air to demonstrate. As expected, they fail and fall into a fate worse than they could have imagined, being used in stock footage. This is a great one because it involves the Stooges getting into a lot of antics. Plus, this one has got some damn good one-liners and jokes from Curly.
Don't saw the wings, you saw the garage.
I see the garage, but I don't saw the garage. You are speaking incorrectly.
Where's your vice?
Vice? I have no vice. I'm as pure as the driven snow.
Also, I can't talk about this episode without talking about the bit with Moe in the balloon suit. Moe accidentally falls into a vat of tar, and Larry and Curly fill him up with gas to get the tar off. However, the gas causes Moe to rise like a balloon, and now Curly and Larry have to get him down. Now, as funny as this bit is, the only downside is that it takes up a majority of the short, so it doesn't have a lot of room for a ton more memorable bits. Except, of course, for the flight of the Buzzard. Even so, it still is a ton of fun, and makes for a good laugh. Number 4. Goof on the Roof. This is our last of the Shemp shorts, and we're going out strong with this. This short is sweet and simple. The Stooges' roommate, Bill, is coming home with a new bride, and it's up to the Stooges to clean up the house before they arrive. And that's it. That's right, no ghouls, ghosts, or goblins, no criminals or gangsters, no Nazis, no angry bosses, no nothing. It's a whole episode of the Stooges just being the Stooges. And that's what makes it great. Because there's no other plot, which means the three of them can go all out. The best and my favorite gag of the whole episode has to be the running gag with the double door. Whenever one of the Stooges goes to get a bucket of water, namely Shemp, another Stooge accidentally slams the door on them, causing them to fall and the bucket to fall on their head. It's a hilarious gag and makes me laugh every time, especially when it switches up and Larry ends up being the one with the bucket on his head.
Wait a minute, is that me? No, it's me!
And of course, in usual Stooge fashion, they completely wreck the house. They put holes in the walls, they ruin the chimney, Shemp falls through the ceiling, Moe tears apart the new TV trying to fix it. It's complete Stooge madness. And while it may only make number 4 on this list, I consider it to be the best short involving Shemp. Number 3. A Plumbing We Will Go. So, full disclosure, this one is on the list not only because it's a great short, but it also has some sentimental value to it as well. I'll get to that in a minute though. The Stooges have just been acquitted of committing trespassing and vandalism. However, they get back to their antics yet again, and the cop that brought them in chases after them. They escape and get mistaken for plumbers. Not wanting to get caught, they go along with the mix-up and try to fix a leak in the basement of a wealthy socialite throwing a party. Of course, chaos ensues. So, let's get into the actual short itself. There are plenty of moments to make you laugh, from Curly trapping himself inside a prison of pipes, to Larry digging up the yard trying to find a means to shut off the water, and of course, when Moe and Larry hook up the water to the electrical pipes, causing everything that uses up electricity to begin spraying water. This is especially great with the scenes involving the chef, played by regular Stooges actor Dudley Dickerson. Dickerson just absolutely sells his confusion and bewilderment that the house is essentially breaking down. Or as he puts it,
This house is sure gone crazy.
Now, another reason that this short is on my list is because it's the first Three Stooges media I ever saw. Without it, I would know nothing about the Stooges, and they wouldn't have had the same impact on me that they do today. And while 2 more shorts have surpassed it since I first watched it, this one will always have a close place to my heart. Number 2! Spook Louder. Now, this is the best of the best when it comes to the Stooges and their more haunted shorts. The story is told in flashback by Professor J.O. Dunkfeather, played by Lou Kelly. He's being interviewed by a reporter played by Stanley Brown, who is asking about a case regarding a master spy named Graves, played by Ted Warch. The story involves the Stooges, who are traveling peddlers, getting hired by Graves to guard his house while he is away at the Pentagon. The Stooges are tasked to make sure no spies sneak in and steal Graves' inventions. Of course, spies do try to sneak in, dressed up in Halloween costumes to scare our heroes. That and Graves' house needs to be filled with other spooks as well, including a monster behind a bookshelf, a skeleton in a casket, and a weird-faced ghost, which of course is just a balloon stuck to Curly's shirt. This one is hilarious, as once the Stooges are alone in the house, it's just non-stop scares, one after the other. This one is also filled to the brim with funny slapstick, including a kitten playing piano, Curly getting punched by someone from behind a bookshelf, and this is also the short that introduces a gag used by Moe in later shorts, the one where his hair stands up on end whenever he gets scared. The funniest part has to come from the running gag of the pies being thrown at everybody. It's especially comedic because we cut to the present with the reporter and the professor, and the reporter gets increasingly excited and frustrated as to who the one throwing the pies is. The punchline, of course, is that the professor was the one throwing the pies, in which a pie then pops up and smacks him in the face. It's a great short, easily earned spot on the list, only being beaten by... number one. Stop! Stop? Stop, what for? Because you still have to do the honorable mentions. Oh, right, of course, sorry. First, before we get to number one, I gotta talk about a few honorable mentions. Three Little Pirates, a funny sketch that also provides me with one of my running gags through my channel. Not as strong as the others though, because this short occurred after Curly's stroke, so the gags and energy don't feel as strong as previous shorts. If a Body Meets a Body, a good spook short and has one of, if not my favorite moment of Curly. However, suffers from the same problem as Three Little Pirates. Out West, a great Western Stooges short with plenty of funny jokes and moments. Plus, Stooges regular Christine McIntyre puts on a great performance as an actress and a singer. Men in Black, the second Three Stooges short I ever saw, and one that I would recommend. It simply got outclassed by other sketches. Disorder in the Court, probably one of the most common shorts known, especially since it's public domain. Very funny, but greatly overused. Calling All Curs, a great short with some cute animals. You can't go wrong. Alice in the Palace, the first Shemp short I ever saw. It's great and funny, but gets far too much coverage, much like Disorder in the Court. Self-Made Maids, a literal entire short done with every character played by the Three Stooges. Very funny and very well done, if not a little weird. Alright, and now... number one! Nutty but Nice. This one, in my opinion, is the best the Three Stooges has given us. It's got some of the best jokes, best timing, good plot, and amazing writing. The Stooges work as waiters and entertainers for a restaurant. One of their regular customers enlists them to cheer up a little girl. When they can't make her smile, they take it upon themselves to try and find her missing father, a bank teller who was kidnapped by mobsters, along with millions of dollars worth of bonds. Like I said, this one consistently has some of the best jokes and moments of all the Stooges shorts. One of the most memorable for me has to be the running gag of Curly yodeling. Curly does this because the little girl and her father would do this to communicate from long distances. At one point, when Curly starts yodeling, things begin to get thrown onto his head. It starts out small, just some water, but then it turns to a potted plant and finally a wooden chair. Plus, the final battle with the gangsters is a great piece of work, especially because it's one of those fights where the lights go on and off. And of course, there are other classic lines like these.
No bonds.
No identification. Oh, yes, there is. He's a Boy Scout.
He's a detective.
Who's that?
Toy mines.
It's one that consistently makes me laugh every time I see it, and it'll keep making me laugh every time I do. Without a doubt, this is my favorite Three Stooges short. Well, that's all we have for this countdown. Until the next one, farewell.